Welcome aboard. This is the Miles to Go podcast. And now here's your host, Ed Pizza.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Miles to Go podcast. Mr. Kerr and I are sitting here at our desks, not wanting to brave the world of travel right now. Air traffic control in New York was down a second time since the last time we recorded. It's just a mess out there, folks. We're getting out of the summer travel season. Things should start to slow down a little bit, but to be honest, I'm happy not to have gotten on the plane this week, Mr. Kerr. How about you?
So happy, but I only have 10 more days of respite before the chaos begins in my travel world. Very busy second half of September, very busy October. I'm just soaking in the fresh air down here where it's finally not 5 billion degrees in Georgia.
Yeah.
Was outside last night doing a little jog because you and I have a little, I have a 10K coming up. It is old and
hold that thought. I will stop you for just 1 second. I'll do something that good podcaster never do this. So that's why I'm doing this.
What?
If you're watching on video, if you're not watching on video, you can see me holding up the boot.
The medical grade boot designed by the MIT research, now costing $500 for a piece of foam and plastic.
$485. Come on.
$485 before tax.
But that is my get out of jail free card for the 10K that's coming up.
Man, I started training 2 weeks ago, as everybody seeing here on camera. Little faces looking a little slimmer. You know, I cut down the adult beverages significantly and been hitting the pavement, man, trying to get ready so I don't embarrass myself in these 6 miles here in a little under 2 months now coming up. But dude, it's outside, man. I'm really enjoying being home, going on 3 weeks straight now after I just canked that last New York trip.
3 weeks.
I'm telling you, man. But dude, the chaos is coming. It's just, I see it on my calendar. I was talking about it this morning. Even the family's got some trips coming up, and it's just going to be so. I'm going to enjoy the next 10 days of a little football action and hanging out, little pickleball action, trying to avoid another injury. My stretching routine has significantly improved before and after all the exercise. It sounds like I'm taking care of myself, man. Like I'm just trying to, get into a better spot here before we go into the chaos.
Well, you are in much better shape than I am. That's for sure. That's absolutely for sure. I unfortunately will not be right behind you when you finish the 10K. I don't know that I would have been behind you anyway, because that 10K is a lot longer than just gritting through the 5K that we gritted through back whenever that was.
But you were behind me barely in the 5K.
But I was behind you, no question. No, yeah. And by the way, I paid for it, like we talked about. I was hurting for quite a while after trying to keep up with you on the.
But we did have 6 a.m. beers and champagne. That was lovely. We should do it again. You should be at the finish line in November. So we can do that again.
No. Why wouldn't? No. I mean, why would anybody want to get up that early if they didn't have to?
Because you can drink beers and champagne without being judged at 6 a.m.
People judge me all day long.
That's a regular occurrence for me or anything. Oh, dude, awesome story, man. That just reminds me of a great story. All right, wait. This is so good. I'm going to give you 2 options. You got to pick which option, okay?
Oh, no.
So we took the family to Georgia Tech game last Saturday night. Yep. We used Marriott points to stay at the courtyard that's walking distance from Georgia Tech Stadium. Dude, I told you 40,000 points for a $500 courtyard in downtown Atlanta, awesome. Because both Clemson and UGA were playing, and then later that night Georgia Tech had their first home game. So really busy. Plus there was Dragon Con going on. So downtown Atlanta was popping.
Dragon Con.
So we get the elevator the next morning. It was a very late kickoff, so I just have a rule now that I'm not getting the family on the road after about 10 p.m. at night anymore. It's just not worth it here in Georgia where people are idiots.
No.
So we'll just walk back to the hotel. 9 o'clock a.m., you get in the elevator. Option 1 and option 2. Which one are you picking? Option 2 is a gentleman who has a Dragon Con bucket hat on and just an outfit made for Dragon Con, and he's just a squirrely looking fella living his... No, I didn't see a picture of this guy.
Oh, okay. All right.
But my man was living his best life. It's early on a Sunday. He's headed to Dragon Con. I hadn't seen a bucket hat since the summer of 99, but my man was rocking it. Headed down to breakfast by himself. But a squirrely looking fellow who's just having a great time in Dragon Con. Super happy for him. That's option A. Option B is when we walk in the elevator, there's a Clemson fan still from the game before that started at noon yesterday. This is 9 a.m., dude. He's got his Clemson hat on, he's got his Clemson t-shirt on, he's holding a hazy IPA that's cracked open, and he's just sipping in the elevator at 9 a.m. Don't think his party had stopped since Clemson got drug out the day before. Who are you striking up a conversation with? Dragon Con man or Clemson fan that's drinking in the elevator at a courtyard?
Oh, definitely the Clemson guy. There's much less variability with them than the Dragon Con guy.
I mean, I was like, my man, both these guys living their best lives here in the Courtyard Marriott Atlanta.
I love
Elevator. That was hilarious.
Oh, I love it. Oh, all right. Well, I guess actually first here we'll throw up on the screen real quick to go with the boot. If you're watching, you can see the little extra piece of bone that I have floating around in my toe. And by the way,
that's good, right?
It
extra
is, yes.
stability. You got 3 points of contact in that toe.
Well, and as a plus here, my good friend, our good friend Molly from the Slack community told me that if I get a pin in there, if they decide that it has to be reattached with a pin, that I can get out of running for a whole year. So I'm viewing this.
What you've been doing for the last.
Well, I ran last year, at least once. Oh man! All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about the Westin Bora Bora opening up. I also had kind of a little discovery on the hotel alerts that Thrifty Traveler has coming out now, sport of the show. So I want to show off something I found there, and then we got a couple of questions from the Slack community. And if we have time, we're going to talk about Tokyo Disney. We'll put Tokyo Disney at the end because I know we have some people that aren't as big a Disney fan as Richard and I are. So if you start hearing us talk about Tokyo Disney, don't shut us off, but you can walk away for a few minutes. Anyway, a little bit of housekeeping.
I don't think that's any better.
No, we need the view hours, man. I just don't want them to shut us off. They can leave us playing in the background. By the way, for what it's worth, I do want to clarify for folks that are not watching us. First off, why wouldn't you? We're two very attractive older men.
Svelte. Svelte.
Richard is sporting an Atlanta Braves hat, which I actually really like the logo on. It's a 1960s. You said this is when they used the logo back in the 1960s, little lowercase a. I like it. I like what you're doing there.
The Hank Aaron era. Got it right.
Like it. I like it. All right, so housekeeping stuff. First off, if you're watching, like this episode and subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you're listening on one of those podcast platforms, same thing. Give us a like, subscribe to the show, leave us a review and a rating. All that stuff does a huge help to us spread the show around the world. Lastly, if you want to find us, you can text us or leave us a voicemail, 571-293-6659. You can also find him on social media at Kerrpoint. Me, I am Pizza in Motion. The show is Miles to Go Podcast. And Mr. Kerr, just so you know, if you show up next week, we will hit a milestone. It'll be episode 350 of the podcast. Can you believe that?
I hope to still be here next week.
I hope so too. I hope so too. And by my math, that's just short of 7 years. I said we were doing 6 years, but it's a long time. Like I have aged considerably. I have aged considerably since we started this show. That is
without missing a week, correct? Like you've kept the streak alive.
Well, you bridged me 1 week. You went live with Howie 1 week. So, but the show has been live for 349 weeks as of right now.
That's awesome.
All right, so let's get into it. First off, let's talk Westin Bora Bora because I
didn't cheat. You told me not to cheat. I haven't cheated.
Right. So I gave Richard some guide rules last night. I want to talk about Westin Bora Bora, but don't look at the redemption prices for the hotel. First off, just high level, I know this is going to come as something of a surprise to you, but I had a little bit of a struggle getting the rates to pop up on the Marriott website. At one point, there were no cash fares available for the Westin Bora Bora for the full year, even though all the award prices were loaded. Then the cash prices were there and the award prices weren't. Just a bunch of that sort of funky stuff. Same thing with the St. Regis Bora Bora, which I did some comparisons on. Anyway, Bora Bora, wonderful, beautiful place to go. Definitely someplace I want to tag on my bucket list. And someplace that you can use your points to defray some pretty massive costs. But the question for today is, how many points? So, Mr. Kerr, with the Westin Bora Bora having opened up in Bora Bora, what is your guess on, pick your time window, low season at any point? What do you think it costs for an award room? And by the way, I went with 5 nights to get 5th night free.
When is low season in French Polynesia? Is there a low season?
It's Nevuary. Yes, Nevuary.
Yeah, okay. I'm pretty sure it's just always pretty much the same weather down there. I'm gonna go 145 a night. 145 a night.
All right. So we're doing Price is Right rules, because by Price is Right rules, you did not go over. I know that comes as a big surprise to you. I know that comes as a big surprise to you. Do you want to take another guess?
That's per night, before or after 5th night free?
That's that after 5th night free.
After 5th night free, it's still more than 145.
And I'm looking at the cash rates here. They're like
XPF, French Polynesian. What is francs?
Yeah. I just did that math conversion, and so I'm looking at rates that are like, I don't know, $700 a night, $800 a night, because it's about it's.
Oh wow, that's pretty cheap for French Polynesia there.
Yeah. Yeah. So the nights that I found later in the year for 5 nights were anywhere from, at the lowest that I could find, which wasn't a ton, they were just under 100,000 points a night. And then the majority of the days were just over what you were looking at. Like I was seeing 160s, 170s, 180s. Once you fold in fifth night free, you get under 500,000 points. And in fact, in a couple of days, you were able to get under 400,000 points a night, which gets you to under 100,000 points a night. But because I saw a story that said that there was 74,000 point a night rooms. I think that was on TPG, and I could not find those anywhere. So consistently, like if I bring up the calendar, I'll show you here. Like let's go here. I got a calendar up on the screen. You can see like the lowest I found was November of this year, and so 300 and change for a 5-night stay was the cheapest that I could find.
Not bad. However, my concern is a couple. One is that flight from Papiti over to Bora Bora, and then you've got those transfers get pretty expensive here, just like the Maldives, right?
Yep.
And then you've got to buy everything. Obviously, you're kind of locked into the resort, so whatever food and drink prices are, they are what they are. Hopefully, they're honoring Marriott Platinum and above free breakfast in some way, shape, or form. But this is also, I'm just going to go ahead and assume you're in a garden room. You're not getting the full Bora Bora overwater,
Even though they have treatment. A lot of bungalows. This property does have a lot of bungalows, but you're right. It's probably not one of those. And as you got into the meat of next year, and again, like I don't think I'd ever go to Bora Bora for less than 5 nights, to be clear, just because of how far the flight is and all that stuff. But once you get in the meat of next year, these prices all go up to over 400,000 Marriott Bonvoy points for a 5-night stay. So, obviously, you want to maximize fifth night free. But, Mr. Kerr, we have one small point. It's your second thing that you have to guess. And this is why I asked you not to look. What do you think the taxes and fees are on that award room?
Because Marriott does that, don't they? Yeah.
I can't help laughing. I'm sorry. I tried to keep a straight face. I really did.
Dude, it's at least a couple $100. Do they have a resort fee at Bora Bora? Can we just lump that all in? Like in a place like this?
Sure we can, except we don't.
I'll do a couple $100 a night.
Yeah, so if you do, by the way, I did find a day where you can have the overwater bungalow, and that one is 140,000 points a night plus 500,000 XPF, which is another $500, so $250 a night, and then fees on top of that. But no, it's about 150,000 XPF per night in fees, which is about $150 a night in fees on top of your award room.
That's brutal, man. I just don't understand like what we're going for here. But a lot of people Marriott fans out there. You just got to have a whole lot of points all the time.
You do.
I think that
yeah.
Although I'll say like domestic redemptions, man, have been surprising me a little bit. Like you and I have noted for several months now. The Swalfin down in Orlando. I can't believe I got that $500 courtyard for 40,000 points. Like there is value there, but
there
aspirational value in Marriott is tough these days. Just same with Hilton, right?
Right.
It's just so many points for.
Well, the only difference I'd say with Hilton though is I don't see as many of these like really big fees with Hilton. So like this one I just pulled up was a 3-night stay where you're paying over 40,000 XPF in fees. So you're paying over 400 and change. So
yeah, I don't like that. If you're gonna if I'm getting a free room, give me the free room. Like
it's definitely not free.
Yeah.
So from that standpoint, I think like I don't see those numbers on Hilton stays very often. So you don't get fifth night free with Hilton, right?
You do if you're elite, right?
Do you?
Isn't that the deal? Yeah. You're still sharing that calendar view, but I don't know if you're meaning to do that.
You're right. I should take that down.
I'm sure Hilton fifth night free for elites. Or is that going away? Is that going away?
That's a good question. You think you would think 2 experts would remember that off the top of their heads, but
you also so much these days.
But you also Hilton doesn't have resort fees on their bookings, which I had forgotten. So this is, I think, a chunk of difference in terms of how far your points can go. But I mean, there's some Hilton rooms that make these numbers look puny.
Yeah, so Hilton Elite's fifth night free when using points, but standard room only.
Oh, interesting. You can't do that in a suite. Okay, that makes sense. I can understand that.
Yep.
So I mean, overall, I guess coming into this, fun little geeky exercise, like, do those numbers meet your expectations, pricier than you thought? Like, what do you think? If you're, let's say 150,000 points a night plus, call it $100+ in fees a night.
Yeah, plus transfers, plus food costs. That's why it's like, I've been to the Maldives in 2015, so almost 10 years ago now, and my desire to go back to a location like that has still just been basically none. Like, it is a really long way to go, for everything to be expensive, and there are really great beaches, and resorts a lot close, by. Am I going to go one day? Yeah, sure, I'm going to go. Is it going to be a time in my life where I don't have to sweat like the small stuff like that and get exactly what I want? Like if I'm going all the way to Bora Bora, I'm going to
resorts. Let's just say,
yeah, something like that. Yeah, I'm on junkie. Is there an Amman in Bora Bora? If there is, I can't ever afford that. But I don't know, man. Like it's just like, again, the perception of value, whether true or not, is what I am after and makes me feel comfortable during a stay. Whether that means it's expensive but includes value, or again, just going back to this example last week, like the Courtyard Marriott, like $514, including platinum breakfast credit for $20, food and beverage. Like that's value. That's great. That's a great program. That's but a thing like this where I got to pay that many points just for the base room, on top of transfers, on top of nightly fees, on top of every other food price, like that's just stresses me out, right? So I'm gonna go there, do it the way I want to do it, and do it at a point in my life where I just don't have to worry about nickel and diamond stuff, right? Because we've all read the articles about Bora Bora where it's like, hey, this is where you can go, and these are how many Nutri-Grain bars you got to pack in your backpack so that you can maybe skip lunch. And like, I'm just at a point in my life, man. Like, if that's what you got to do, and that's what you want to do to go see an amazing place, then go and do it. Me personally, that's not what I want to do anymore, man. Like, I just don't want to have to worry about that kind of stuff. So, interested to see the first reviews. I'm sure we'll have several folks go and check it out and report back. But there are a lot of other options in Bora Bora as well. So
yeah, there are. I think personally, what I would say is I have not been to the Maldives or Bora Bora. I was actually booked to stop there for a day or so on a trip back from New Zealand right before COVID, but French Polynesia barred transit passengers, so I had to skip it. I would actually do this, and I think the reason why I would do it, and this is just off the top of my head, but I think like LA to Papeete is like 7, 8, 9 hours, something like that. So like it's not the bear that it is to get to the Maldives. It's still not close, don't get me wrong, but I would consider this. I'd also, I have no idea what the flights look like from Papeete to Hawaii. I have to imagine there's plenty of them, but I would consider something where like maybe I would go to LA to Papeete and then come back through Hawaii and do a little more exploring of one of the Hawaiian islands that we haven't explored. The problem with it is, to your point, I don't keep this kind of Marriott balance, and so that leaves me two choices. I can either get a Marriott credit card, which I don't think there's a ton of value spending in their categories, or I've got to convert a bunch of spending hotel stays to Marriott, because I wouldn't want to transfer Chase Ultimate Rewards points because I can get a lot more value for them somewhere else.
Yeah.
I guess if I could find a cheaper stay, I'm just because of how heavy the resort fees are on the award stays, maybe I do venture miles or something like this and pay cash, find a cheap cash day and use Ultimate Rewards points to get there on, say, like Air New Zealand or something like that. But I would consider going to French Polynesia. Like, it's on my list, and I think it's on my list well before I'm going to take the trek to the Maldives. Because that's not going to happen before I don't have kids in the house.
Yeah. Several ways to use miles to fly. United has a flight from San Francisco. Air Tahiti Nui serves at least LA, and you can redeem American miles for that. You can fly French Bee, the low-cost airline, I think also
French
from
Bee.
San Francisco. And then you can also, like Ed said, I'm sure several different options between Hawaii and French Polynesia, which would be a cool itinerary. And you can do free stopovers using Hawaiian miles for the next few months while they still exist, before being what it looks like, TBD, but looks like being absorbed into Alaska. So everybody enjoy your French Polynesia trips.
Yeah, and I think, if I remember correctly, because I think one of the tickets I had booked when things were going crazy being COVID was on Air Tahiti Nui, and I think it was through American. Aren't they a partner with American?
That's literally what I just said. Redeem your American miles on Air Tahiti Nui.
I thought you said Alaska miles. I'm losing my mind. I thought you said Alaska miles.
No, I don't think you can. No, you can redeem Alaska on Fiji, but you cannot redeem Alaska on Air Tahiti Nui.
You can? Oh, okay. I thought you could. I mean,
double check that.
Can we just have a list? Why don't you come up with a list of airlines that we can't redeem on with Alaska? I think that would be quicker.
That would actually, Air Tahiti Nui is partners with Mileage Plan. You can earn and redeem Mileage Plan miles. So, yes, yeah, American and Alaska.
I thought so, because I thought at one point when I had some, when I was over in Auckland helping a friend, we were all using miles to move people back and forth. And I remember somebody had booked an Air Tahiti Nui ticket on Alaska, and I had one booked on American, and we couldn't figure out which one was which. So I don't remember what the rates are between the two of them, but
I'm about to find out. But it's Seattle or LAX to, you're seeing, I don't know how you're saying it. I've always said, unfortunately, right or wrong, PPT Airport. But you sound pretty confident in the way you're saying it.
I thought it was Papeete, but let's see, PPT pronunciation.
These are the things that good podcasters
do.
Probably something different.
Papeete. Papeete is what it says.
Papeete?
So we're both wrong.
Not Papiti, but Papiti. There you go. Yeah, everybody was like, these idiots are saying it wrong. Like,
yeah, right. Yeah, this is
you
this
guys
is
get
this
on
is,
there and
this
say
is
every single international airport correctly.
Dulé, Washington International.
Let's see. It starts Seattle to French Polynesia, 30,000 Alaska miles and $19 in economy. That's not a bad deal.
No, it's not, but
like,
it's also 8 hours in economy, which this 50-year-old body does not do. Is that a red eye? It's got to be red eye one direction or another.
I'm trying to see if they got what business class is here in Google Chrome. Dude, Google Chrome is just not what it used to be, man. I don't care what anybody says. It is not what it used to be.
I had this conversation with somebody who thought I was nuts for using Firefox. And I'm like, I don't know. I just have times where Chrome pages won't load for me. So I keep a Chrome and a Firefox browser open. And there's certain things that work better in one than the other.
I hesitate to say it, but feels like Safari is becoming a better experience than Chrome for me, dude. I'm telling you, man. Let's see. Business class, we got 75,000 Alaska miles and $19, but availability is pretty sparse. That is from Seattle to French Polynesia. But still, man, let's check out these flight times, but not a bad deal. And then I think we've beat this horse to death here on French Polynesia. But
the horse is at the glue factory, my friend.
Wait a minute, drops down to 60,000. Man, there's not a number that's, nonstop. Leave Seattle 2:30 p.m. Land French Polynesia 10:05 p.m. 60,000 Alaska miles and $19 for business class. 9.5 hours. That is a smoking deal right there, my friend.
I like it. Let's book it. Let's
smoking
go.
Deal.
We hit the Curacao.
And I forgot it. They got rid of those old A340 monsters there at Tahiti Nui, and they got the new Dreamliners. Yeah, dude, this is a great deal.
Let's do it.
I had to book this up.
Road trip. Well, maybe not road trip, but you know what I mean.
It's gonna be a short drive.
All right, so real quick, that's annoying.
It's day jobs calling.
Yeah,
Five Guys, burger and fries.
Yeah, the phone is on silent and it still rang. Thank you, Apple. So I want to touch base on something that I saw. You may have already known about this, but I discovered something with the new Thrifty Traveler hotel alerts. Thrifty Traveler, friend of the show, they've been a sponsor off and on for the past year or so. So they started adding this block for the folks who are subscribed to the hotel alerts. And on certain award alerts where they're showing a flight alert, they're also showing you what hotels to book. And it was one of those things where I was like, okay, I wonder how helpful these are. And I started looking at a few, and so I'm putting one up on the screen here. This was for a Copenhagen award that they had that came out yesterday, the day before, or something like that. And so I'm looking at this going, all right, an NIMB, like NIM Hotel, SLH Hotel, 120,000 Hilton points, got it. Nobis Hotel in Copenhagen, Design Hotels, 50 to 78,000 Marriott points. Story Hotel in Malmo, Sweden, 4,000 to 6,000 Hyatt points. I'm like, wait, what? There's a Hyatt there? And I went and looked at the map, as the people who are watching can see on the screen, and I'm like, holy cow, there's a Hyatt just a stone's throw from Copenhagen for 5,000 Hyatt points a night. That's over 2 cents a Hyatt point in redemption that I just didn't know about.
Didn't know the hotel was there, but I have taken the train from Copenhagen to Malmo back in high school. So that I could say I've been to Sweden. Cool little city.
So 5 years ago?
Yeah, I wish. No, 20 years ago. Actually, man, me and Tom was supposed to be in Copenhagen right now for the daddy-son trip.
Oh, no.
Yeah, he was,
I was wondering when that was.
He was going to miss, like, the way, I don't know. Oh, man, we about to pull out soapbox here. I can't help myself. I don't know what the deal with Little League is these days, but, like, for some reason, whenever they call you and say what team you're on, they cannot put out the schedule. I guess sometime in the month between the teams being announced and the play opening up, they have a different amount of teams and fields. It's not true at all. They know it's a finite number. This drives me and Mrs. Kerr nuts. There's a finite number of playing fields in the Recreation League, and there's a finite number of teams. But for some reason, they can't put out the game schedule until a week before games start, which makes it really impossible to kind of plan your life as a family until they put this game schedule out. Game schedule comes out, man, and he was going to miss 3 games if he had gone to Denmark. And, like, that's
I still would have done it, but okay. Go ahead.
It's just like it's an impossible thing, right? He loves baseball, but he also loves to travel. And we were really excited about Legoland in Denmark, and I had this awesome open jaw ticket on American back to Copenhagen. But like, you make a commitment, and like a part of playing Little League sports to us is like learning the things like you made a commitment, man. So we got to make sacrifices. Like, no, he's not going pro. No, he's not going to college. His last name's Kerr. He's not going to be a pro athlete. But like part of Little League is like the character and commitment stuff. So we're like, look, man, like if we miss one game, then sure, I got it. But this schedule came out. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you are a part of a Little League team, like what has changed since I grew up playing recreation ball? This is not travel league. This is not anything like that. It's recreation ball. How can you not put a schedule out more than a week in advance? Like, it absolutely drives me insane. And nobody has been able to give me an answer for this. So would really love these places to get their acts together so that we can plan our lives as a family. But now I'm not in Copenhagen looking at that train to Malmo, Sweden, where apparently there's a 5,000 point Hyatt. What is the story? What is that? What brand was that it had? No.
It's a Joie de Vivre. And there's more than one of them in Sweden. So
I'm going to check out this hotel. Yeah, now you know.
Yeah, no, so that's on my list now. So like, I thought that was a cool little, I mean, and to be clear, like, I usually know when I'm looking at flight deals, like where I want to stay. I've got ideas about that stuff already. And I discovered in one of these alerts a property I'd never heard of. So for folks who aren't nerd planning like I do or you do and just like obsessing about where the next trip is, I can imagine that these hotel alerts are going to be pretty helpful, not only in finding good properties, but also discovering new stuff. Is that the right place to go, Malmo? I don't know. I've never been there. You went and seemed to,
it's like a walkable
have a good enough
port,
memory.
Man. It's like a school flight. And looking at these, I'm looking at the website now. Looks like a cool spot right on the water. 5,000 Hyatt points a night. Like, dude, well worth the train ride over from Copenhagen. Make a little Sweden-Denmark trip out of it and have a great time. Knock yourself out.
And also, too, like a unique boutique kind of hotel. It's not a Hyatt place, if you will. And it's, like the prices for the hotel from a cash standpoint weren't super expensive either. Don't get me wrong. But it was over 2 cents in value because it was, 5,000 points and whatever, $150 a night or something like that. So thought that was a cool little tidbit that I'm starting to see pop up in the Thrifty Traveler alerts. And as I started to look through them, I discovered a couple properties that I hadn't heard of. So let's talk a little bit. I got a couple of listener questions. I didn't talk about the Slack community earlier, but dropping a note about it here because the questions that we have this week are from our Slack community members. So if you want to support the show, spend a couple of bucks a month, you can support our Slack community, become a member, have conversations with travel experts like Mr. Kerr and I, as well as other folks. Community folks there, we do weekly happy hours. Unfortunately, I had to cancel this past week's happy hour. My apologies. Meetups. Mr. Kerr is going to be doing a cannonball in my pool this weekend for a meetup at my house, and then we're working on a Disneyland meetup later in the year. So a couple questions. First off, from Sally, I wrote about this on my blog that there was a hotel strike this past weekend, well-timed for hotel employees, the Labor Day weekend. It affected properties in a number of different places, Boston, New York, Hawaii. And the question came up with her, which I thought was an interesting question. If you've got a stay booked, and I understand there's a lot of variables here in how you could ask this question, but in general, I'm curious your opinion. If you got a stay booked at a hotel, Richard, let's say it's non-refundable by the time you find this out, and you find out that there's a strike at the hotel, do you think that you're entitled to some sort of either a refund or a reduction in price or allowed to cancel for free? Like, what's your thoughts on something like this?
Yeah. Generally in travel, I hate to use that word entitled because I just feel like people, it's the wrong attitude we're going for here. But generally, I think it is the right thing to do on behalf of the hotel management to alert your guests and offer them several different things. Like, hey, we're still open for business. Here are the services that are going to be affected. Expect people to be outside the window at 5 a.m. banging drums and blowing trumpets to make your stay as miserable as possible.
Right.
Here's what you can do. We'll give you 50% off and you can come and stay. We'll make alternate accommodations for you or allow you to refund for free. Seems like an absolute no-brainer. Because if my hotel management, does a lack of revenue stink? Yeah, it sure does, but probably more fixated on labor disagreements and getting those resolved than a couple nights of lost revenue. And say, do you really want a guest to come and just say terrible things about your property? Never come back, make sure none of their friends or family stay and leave you a negative Google or, wherever people read the reviews. It's just not worth it, right? So just do the right thing, give your people a heads up and say, hey, here are 3 different things you can do.
Yep. No, I agree. I think as a hotel owner, if I were to position this, I when I was in the hotel industry, I never had a strike specifically. We had other, things that I would say were out of our control because obviously a strike's not out of the hotel's control. But I think these things pop up. And I think how I would lead with it is, to your point, I would definitely notify all the guests. I'd also offer them the chance to rebook at any other date in the future with no penalty, as long as there was availability. And I wouldn't subject that new booking to whatever the rates were at that time. I would just say, we're going to honor your rate. You can book any other date you want. I wouldn't necessarily lead with, we'll refund you, but I would certainly tell folks like, hey, if somebody calls you and says, look, they don't want to come back later in the year, they can't come now and they want a refund, I would tell them, sure, let's go ahead and tell them that we'll do that. But I think it would just proactively lead with, hey, it's going to be a troubling week for us here at the property. If you want to come stay with us a different time, just let us know when you want to move your dates. We'll move the dates, no penalty at all. That's how I would address it.
Yeah. I cannot think the last time that I made a non-refundable hotel booking. Like, that is just not something that I would even consider. Like, it's great to look at the price savings, but at the end of the day, it's just not going to be worth it. So for a million reasons, including now labor disputes, just book refundable hotel bookings, or at least like cancel up until like a reasonable window, even if it's a week out, to know like, hey, yeah, this trip's going to happen. Now I'm within the cancellation window, or I'm not, and give yourself a window. And then I set Google alerts. Hey, well, I think you're within the cancellation window tomorrow. Are you canceling this trip, or are you going?
Yeah, and I think one of the ways I've done it in the past too, like if you're less organized than you are, and you're like me, I will book refundable reservations at times, and I'll set a reminder, call it like the week before the trip or 10 days before the trip or something like that, and look and see at that point when I know it's solid, and I'll switch to a non-refundable rate at that point if I know that the booking is a confirmed booking at that point. But to your point, I hate non-refundable bookings. I won't say never, but every time, it seems like anytime I book them, I end up stubbing my toe. Well, I guess we can't say stubbing my toe anymore, can we?
Because your toe's already broke. Everybody was like, wait, is that political now? No, Ed's toe's broken if you missed the beginning of the episode. That's why we can't.
All right, our next question is actually from our beloved producer, Jeremiah, who, if you didn't, by the way, if for any reason you didn't watch past the credits last week on the show, you absolutely have to watch past the final credits to see a classic Richard Kerr moment. Did you watch, Richard?
I did, yes. I relived that wonderful.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Wonderful goof there. Very easy to make, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. Very easy goof to make.
Look, good-looking guys like you do that all the time. So Jeremiah's wife, you see this up on the screen if you're watching, Jeremiah's wife is going on a cruise without him, which leads to all kinds of questions. We're not going to touch that at all. Just leave that where it is.
Have a great time. Have a great time.
They are in port for a day in Curacao. All the beaches there are private. He's looking for a way for them to get to a beach for the day. He said he was considering booking a night at a Hyatt or Hilton so they can get a beach all-inclusive and have meals covered for the day and just not stay overnight. He asked for some other comments. People gave him a bunch of feedback there. Mr. Kerr, I'm curious what you would do with this situation if your wife were down in Curacao, you were handling the kids, and you wanted to make sure she could have a beach day while she was gone.
Yeah, probably first call up those hotels and surely they offer a day pass for cruise passengers, and they're gonna make some revenue off of that. So call up the hotels that caught your eye, see what their day pass is, and then second, go to resortpass.com. We actually just did a deal with them in the day job.
I was gonna say, yeah.
Yeah, I have no idea if Curaçao's on there, but a lot of Caribbean destinations are in Hawaii, North America. See what they're charging for a day pass to those resorts. I wouldn't book a whole night. And I had no idea that every beach is private in Curacao, so I'm going to check that out now.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. I have not been to Curacao. I don't have a problem booking a night. I think it depends on what the rate is. I think it gets a little bit stickier with all-inclusives because, you're like a big part of what you're paying for an all-inclusive are your meals. So from a flight standpoint, I think, to make it worth your while for an all-inclusive, I think you'd have to make sure you could eat at least 2 meals. So call it like a lunch and a dinner. So I guess if if she's getting into port like a normal cruise would at 7, 8, 9 o'clock in the morning, and if she has a 9 or 10 o'clock flight out, I mean that could work. Get 2 meals, get a full day at the beach, stuff like that. I guess again, depending on what the points price is. I also thought it was interesting, just as a complete aside, that the cruise ends in Curacao. I didn't realize that Curacao was a cruise port.
A
departing cruise port.
The Southern Caribbean, yeah. There's some weird islands out there where you have to fly into to start and end some cruises.
Yeah.
But it's a big baseball culture down there in Curacao. Several Braves greats come from the island. And I'm pretty sure they were just in the Little League World Series, making it there to Williamsport. So I would love to check it out. I think they have some good casinos there as well, if I'm not mistaken. I know Aruba does. I'm not sure about Curacao.
Aruba has some good casinos. I don't know about Curacao, yeah.
Check it out.
All right, well, we're not going to get to Fantasy Springs and Tokyo Disney today, but let's finish up with Flying Blues promo awards, because I think there's some good ones this month. Have you had a chance to look at these yet to see what's out there? I
saw the headlines. Didn't see what was economy and what was business. Or
so I started digging in. So 15,000 miles one way out of JFK, Dulles, Vegas, Phoenix, Montreal, Ottawa. 15,000 miles one way to a whole slew of places in Europe. And then business class. On this one, probably only works for folks out of the Northeast because you have to position to Canada, Montreal or Ottawa. And there you can get 37,500 miles one way in business class, which I think is a screaming deal. You're probably, like I said, you're going to spend probably 10 or 15,000 miles in coach to position to Montreal or Ottawa on United or Air Canada. So you're probably effectively at 50,000. But a good way to piece together an itinerary to, Amsterdam, Paris, and then a whole bunch of other places beyond that. There were just some interesting cities that that popped up, that I don't normally see. And I think, when I think about this, the one thing that I like when I read the story, which we'll put in the show notes, which I had forgotten about. I knew that you could do stopovers in Paris. I'd forgotten that you could do stopovers in Amsterdam. So if you were able to swing sort of like let's go do, whatever, Croatia, and stop for 3 or 4 days in Amsterdam on the way back. Nothing against Paris. I know Molly's going to yell at me, but I love Amsterdam a lot more than I love Paris. But to be able to say I tack on a second city as part of one of these rewards, like these are the ways I think that normal folks can really stretch their miles.
Yeah, usually a couple $100 each way in taxes and fees and Flying Blue. They continue their assault in winning over the Canadian market. Pretty stiff competition there from Air Canada. But man, I just can't say enough great things about Flying Blue programs. Has certainly saved my bacon several times on transatlantic hops the last couple of years. Just booked some Delta flights down to Tampa to go to the old Burns Steakhouse, 5,500 Flying Blue miles on the Delta nonstop.
Nice.
Great program. If you're not familiar with promo awards, they come out with new routes every month. These prices automatically populate on the applicable routes. You don't have to put a code or anything. Not every single day has them, but if you go to the calendar view search, which you just leave that departure date blank and you hit search on the route you want, and it brings up the whole calendar view of pricing, you can find those days with the promo award space. And in economy, man, I usually find it, no problem. So,
yeah,
especially for a family, man, like flying like Atlanta, Amsterdam, stopover, go check out somewhere else in Europe, 15,000 miles a person, plus kids get 25% off under 11. Don't forget that. It's just massive value. No such thing as too many Flying Blue miles.
Yeah, I think a couple of keys there. You mentioned the discount for kids, and also, too, leaving the date blank on the calendar so you can just search the whole month for lowest price availability. And unlike other calendars, I'm looking at you, United, the monthly calendar on Air France KLM's Flying Blue website is actually pretty accurate. So when it shows you where the lowest prices are, I'd say at least 9 times out of 10, when you click on that date, it's actually going to have that lowest rate available.
Yeah. Shout out to United and the Starlink internet coming. How are we feeling about that?
I'm going to go with something that Oscar Munoz, ex-CEO of United, used to say, Richard. 3 words: proof, not promises.
I'm sure they'll have the fleet retrofitted by 2035. Looking forward to it. Be awesome.
You know what? I would be comfortable with that assessment. Yes. I think anything that starts with a 202, it ain't happening. So, yeah. One other question too, because I've never used Air France for a short haul Delta award. It just never worked well for me out of Dulles, based on what I've never needed like a Dulles to Detroit or Dulles JFK or something like that. Do you? What are the taxes like on those for Air France?
$12.
Okay, so not bad.
Now 5,500 Flying Blue miles and $12 to fly.
Nice.
Short haul Atlanta, anywhere, Florida, like great deal. Because I think Delta was like $130, so only 5,500 miles for like over 2 cents per Flying Blue mile. That's wonderful.
Yeah, I kind of forget about that. So I need to look and see. Orlando's probably too far for me connecting through Atlanta to take advantage of that, but I do need to take a look and see. It's like 800 miles.
Well, they do charge you by segment as well, so it's got to be nonstop.
And that was what I used to run into all the time. Was I can get to 3 places from here. Well, 4, I guess, with Minneapolis, but it's tough for me. You living in Atlanta, that's a clutch one for you, as long as you don't mind the 3-hour wait and security.
Plus no Sky Club because it's full. Plus, and back of the bus, middle seat. Yep. All the things. All
right. Well, we still haven't gotten to Tokyo Disney. We will. It might be next year at the rate we're going. But I thought we covered a bunch of fun stuff today. But a bunch of good stuff. I enjoyed playing Guess Your Award Availability Pricing with Westin Bora Bora with you, Mr. Kerr. I think you did a very good job hitting the numbers. I look forward to hearing your review of the property and seeing pictures of you lounging on the beach there.
I don't think I will be there anytime soon. It'd be great if that opportunity shows up for some reason, but not on the immediate or far plans right now.
Yeah. Well, in my immediate plans, tomorrow, Mr. Julian Keel of Points Path fame will be down here at my house. And then over the weekend, we've got all the Slack group folks coming over for the meetup. It was going to be a pool party. It is now a high of 72 degrees and cloudy, and that's not a pool day where I come from. So we'll be lounging around. There's a bunch of Coors Light here that you still haven't showed up to drink, so I'm going to see if I can pawn some of that off on the Slack group.
Now you can pawn it off on Julian. He will participate in the Silver Bullets, like the best of them. But fortunately, we got Mary's first soccer game, we got Thomas' second baseball game. Just things that you can't miss out in dad life. So I'm sorry to miss everybody, but looking forward to making one of these.
Yeah, you talk about dad life as a kind of bummed. Brief personal thing. Like we've been working with Charlie to his first time ranking up as a Boy Scout as opposed to Cub Scouts. And he had a little bit of slow start, but he's finally starting to get into it. And I'm like, all right, this is cool. I got the whole thing lined up, and I even changed my travel around for the Court of Honor, which happens in 2 weeks. So I could be here for the Court of Honor. And he's getting ready to finish off his ranking, getting signed off. And his scoutmaster tells me last night, all right, good news. And we're going to give Charlie his rank up next week at the meeting. And I'm like, oh, and I'm going to be in Vegas next week. Like,
people just like planning. I think it's because you and I are so in tune to like how dynamic schedules are and travel's required. I guess everybody else just plans their lives a week in advance. I can't do it, man. I cannot do that. Like, it doesn't make sense to me in any way, shape, or form.
And that's the way it was with Cat for 4 years with track and field. And like, there were some races that were on the schedule, the invitationals, and the other ones that would be just like, oh yeah, we got to meet next week. I'm like, what do you mean we have a meet next week? Like, I got to travel next week. Yeah, no advance notice from sports or activities. It's a bummer for traveling dads. Traveling moms, too. All right, well, Mr. Kerr, I hope you have another good week at home. I will be hitting the road for a short Vegas trip, someplace new for a change. A whole bunch of flying between now and the end of the year. If everything goes as planned, it does appear that I will hit 1 million miles on United before the end of the year, which is both happy and sad because that means I'm going to be flying an awful lot.
It is. Dude, I got a crazy schedule. We've got, Atlanta, Toronto, New York, D.C., Charleston, Austin, somewhere else I'm forgetting. And it's about a 3-week span. I will be in all of those places. So it's coming, man. I see it on the tracks, and I got a few more days to enjoy chilling out.
You bring up a really good point that I should really probably book my flights to Austin so I can come see how good of a golfer you are and judge how hard you're actually working. See how
come on down.
License snap hook works out. So I will see you on the other side of Las Vegas when I get back home. All that, a whole lot more, Mr. Kerr. Until we upload again, we've got miles to go.
There's a reason we're the Empire State of the South, and they're whatever they are.
The Empire State of the South.
Yeah.